Hi guys, it's Amanda Fitzpatrick starting over here. We are giving you the latest on Hurricane Matthew and its impact here on our area. We are inside the studios in Wilmington, North Carolina. For those of you who are just now watching for the first time, we're doing a Q&A with our Chief Meteorologist Scott Dean as well as meteorologist Helen Holt. And I'm going to switch the dynamic duo in the Weather Center right now. There's Helen and there's Scott. And just first and foremost, where are we, guys? It's a little bit after 8 o'clock in Wilmington, and people are still bracing for Hurricane Matthew's impact.
Yeah, and the storm is still down off the off Jacksonville, Florida right now, moving east of Savannah as well. And if you zoom in here, we've got this this satellite picture that shows you where it is in relationship to Wilmington. And the core of the hurricane is still just offshore as it's moving off to the north. And it looks like now it will stay off the coast of Florida and for the most part Georgia as well. In fact, as I go ahead and put this into motion and zoom in a little bit tighter here, you can see on the satellite picture that's where the eye of the storm is, or what's actually called the central dense overcast. The core of the hurricane is still offshore. In fact, as we look at the radar here, it shows up very nicely on the radar composite. You can clearly see where the circulation is. One thing that's interesting that we are seeing with this, if you look on the south side of the circulation, we're not seeing as much rain. That's telling me that's a weakening sign, and it's also telling me that we're starting to get some drier air beginning to entrain into the southern part of the storm. And that's not what hurricanes or tropical systems like. They don't like dry air, but that's an indication to me that we are starting to see this begin to weaken. Where the strongest winds are, this is what's called the eye wall right here, where you're seeing this ring of yellow and orange and red, and that's where the most intense winds are. But still, with these bands coming in off the Atlantic into the Georgia and South Carolina coast, you're probably getting tropical storm force winds with those as they move through. So the storm is expected to continue to move to the north. As you can see here, here's another view of the 3D version, and it clearly shows how the southern flank of this storm is eroding away, and the heaviest part of the storm is still up to the north. You can really see the edge of that eye wall right there on the northern side. Now, as we look at the latest advisory, this just came out at 8 o'clock, and it has winds of 110 miles an hour. It's moving to the north, so we've seen that change from north-northwest to due north, and I think that will change to northeast later on tonight into tomorrow morning. It is forecast to weaken into a Category 1 storm with 90-mile-per-hour winds around 2 o'clock on Saturday. Here's the big change.
Okay.
Here's the big change. Yesterday, Helen and I were seeing a track that was farther to the south. Now we're seeing this loop to the east is a little bit farther to the north, and what that does is it's forecast to be closer to the Cape, which means the wind effects are going to be enhanced because we're going to be closer to the storm, and that also means that we're certainly going to be in the rain as well. So things have gotten a little bit worse as far as the expected impacts, and that's why the National Weather Service has upgraded the tropical storm warnings to hurricane warnings, right?
Exactly, yeah. I can touch on the watches and warnings. You can see hurricane warnings and tropical storm warnings all up from the northern tip of Florida, stretching over Georgia, South Carolina, and even into the Cape Fear region right now. Pender, New Hanover, and Brunswick-County right now are under a hurricane warning. You can see in this orange color that is Robeson, Bladen, and Columbus counties are all in the tropical storm warning. And this means that we're expected to see hurricane force winds are going to be possible in the next, I think, 36 hours. Is that right?
Well, with the hurricane warning, it's hurricane conditions are expected within 24 hours.
Within 24 hours,
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So obviously this is one of our concerns, and you can look on this graphic right here, potential storm impacts. Wind is at a moderate to high level right now. Rain, flooding, I mean, some areas could see upwards of 10 plus inches, especially right along the coast. Tornadoes is not really much of a threat for us, but it's non-zero, so obviously we'll watch out for that. Storm surge at a high level, and also marine impacts. We've been talking about this for over a week now, that we knew, if anything, marine impacts were going to be high, but obviously the rain flash flood watch is in effect for all of southeastern North Carolina right now. And so we're going to be watching this very, very closely, because we could see down trees, which could lead to lengthy power outages. We are 150 to 200% higher than our normal levels right now since September. So we're already wet. Our grounds are already wet. Add on several more inches of rain, and it is potentially a bad situation. So, of course, down trees and power outages are going to be something we're going to be watching very closely.
All right, let's get to some of these questions as they're flying by here. Something that maybe while we're talking about little things, Scott, as far as weather, and Helen, you can kind of chime in or maybe check for us.
Okay.
Right now they're asking, will they evacuate Monkey Junction, and is there a voluntary evacuation for two people asking about that? Yanto also about Monkey Junction area. They're worried about evacuations there, and new-hanover-county as well. So those are three areas that people are asking, will there be voluntary evacuations? Tabitha wants to know for new-hanover-county and then Monkey Junction. And while Helen is checking on that for us, Scott, another question for you while she's doing that is just looking at the overall, someone had asked about, when will this be over? And I think we kind of touched on that in the news earlier, but again, when will this be over? Has that also changed?
Well, yesterday it has changed a little bit. Yesterday we were looking at a storm that was going to come in tomorrow, and the height of it looked like it might happen tomorrow evening, tomorrow night, into the first part of Sunday. The models are speeding up the progress of the storm, and it now looks like the height of it could come during the day tomorrow, into the afternoon, through tomorrow night, into the wee hours of the morning on Sunday. And by daybreak Sunday, we still could have some strong winds, but the rain will be rapidly coming to an end. And I do think that the majority of Sunday, while we may start off cloudy, we may have some rain very early in the day and some strong winds, things will steadily improve during the day. So I think certainly by Sunday afternoon, the worst will certainly be behind us.
And we've continued to say, if you live in an area that's flooded in the past, if you're in a flood-prone area, they are asking you to voluntarily evacuate, and that goes across the board for multiple counties. And so, again, we're answering your questions now for people that are asking questions about Hurricane Matthew and what happened to Nicole. Hurricane Nicole
is still out there. Nicole is weakened. It is well out in the Atlantic. In fact, I'll go ahead and show this satellite picture and back us out here. There's Matthew right there. I tell you what, let me go ahead
and while he's doing that, I believe Helen was able to check.
Yeah, I have an answer to your question. So New-Hanover County has issued voluntary evacuations for immediate beaches, low-lying, and flood-prone areas. So in Monkey Junction, if you do live in an area that does easily flood, it wouldn't be a bad idea to go over to a friend's house, a family member's house, and somewhere that doesn't flood as easily. Obviously, that would be highly suggested with all the rain we're expected to have. It could be a nasty situation. But yeah, on our website, www.aytv3.com, we have all of the lists of the mandatory and voluntary evacuations, all the way from Bald Head Island, Carolina Beach, Caswell Beach, so all of the area, Leland, Oak Island. You can see exactly what is expected from local officials to the public. So we have that on our website.
And we're able to find Nicole and Matthew
Nicole
there.
is out here, and Nicole was an impressive little hurricane. It really ramped up yesterday, but what's happening is actually getting some upper level shear, some strong winds aloft, and that's actually from the outflow from Matthew. So this storm is kind of in the coattails, as it were, of Matthew. So it looks like that storm will eventually start to lift northward as a weak tropical storm, but that is a storm that we are not going to have to worry about. There is one thing that I do want to touch upon here, and that was what Helen was talking about, and that was the storm surge. And one of the things that determines storm surge is wind direction and the magnitude of winds and the approach of the storm. What you're looking at here is our FutureCast model, and these winds happens as we go into the current time here, and you can see the model is picking up on some rain, but I want you to focus in on these wind arrows and how they evolve over the next 24 hours. We take you ahead in time, and you can see the rain picking up as we go into the wee hours of the morning from the southwest to the northeast, and by 4 a.m. there are going to be some areas that are going to be dealing with some heavy rain. The wind's still coming out of the east. Notice the trajectory to the east-facing beaches here. So you're going to have an onshore flow here, so that could pile up the water somewhat. Not so much down here along the south-facing beaches, not initially. But as the storm gets closer and closer, look at the winds. Look how they switch. Now they're coming from the southeast, and that's going to start to pile up that water, especially down towards Horry County and southern portions of Brunswick County. So you've got an onshore flow here, and that's why we think the storm surge is going to pick up tomorrow afternoon. But then as we go later on, notice the winds. They're still going to be coming onshore here, but then they turn offshore once the circulation goes by. Now you've got an offshore wind, And I can tell you one thing, the surfer's going to love that because the waves will be coming in, but the offshore wind will clean up the surf and allow those waves to stand up. But as far as the storm surge is concerned, that will still be an issue on the east-facing beaches. And then once the storm goes by, notice how all the winds switch out of the northwest, and they'll be blowing offshore. So that will help the situation. So because the storm is going to be closer to us, that has heightened the possibility of storm surge along our coastline. In fact, as you look at the map here, this illustrates that point. The highest storm surge is going to be right here in Georgia and South Carolina. Look at the shape of the coastline. That's a concave
that's scary.
coastline.
That's scary because you look at the storm surge in Florida and it just the level of the waves there in the water as well. Is that something that is going to be just to those areas that you're referring to?
Well, the highest storm surge is going to be located in this area because the hurricane is piling all that water, and the water can't escape because of the curvature of the coastline. All that plays a role in what kind of storm surge. It's very complex. The speed of the storm, the size of the storm, the intensity of the storm, the angle of approach, all the shape of the coastline, whether you have a full moon or a high tide that is abnormally high, that will play a role when the tide comes in. All those features play a role in how much storm surge you're going to get. Now, as we go later on into time here, you can see along the south-facing beaches from Sunset, Ocean Isle over towards Holden, that's where we expect the highest potential for storm surge of 4 to 6 feet. But on the east-facing beaches, we're not expecting as high a storm surge. So anyone that lives in a flood-prone area along the coastal areas needs to watch out for this. And the other thing is the National Hurricane Center is stressing all of us in the media to talk about this flash flooding threat. It could be potentially life-threatening. That's the verbiage they want us to pass along, because we're talking about, as Helen was talking about, up to a foot of rain. And so if you live, and we've gotten these questions before.
We've gotten a lot of calls this evening already about
it. Well, what do I need to do?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. If you have any thoughts in your head, maybe this might not be a good idea, or my house kind of is prone to flooding.
That's right.
Go somewhere else. Don't risk it, especially if you're by yourself or you need medical attention or anything like that. Like, don't risk it. Just go somewhere that's a little bit easier for you. A friend, a family, even get a hotel if you need to. It's better be safe than sorry. That's what we've been saying this entire time. You know, the track was kind of shifting a little bit to the south of us. Now it's flipped a little bit to the north of us. And Matthew has not made landfall anywhere yet, and so this has been very interesting to watch.
Not in the U.S., yeah.
Not in the U.S., sorry, not in the U.S.
So everything that we're seeing, and also we've had a few people that say they can't hear as well, so we may have to talk a little bit louder. So you're saying that everything we're seeing, the images, especially in Florida, that Matthew hasn't even really touched down yet? And that's just what explained what we're seeing with the storm surge and just the damage we're already seeing in those areas in the U.S.
Well, if you look at you might want to zoom in here. It's because I'm talking this way. But if you look at the circulation here, and if I zoom out here, and let's go back. Let's see if I can go back a little bit longer here to 6 hours, and you can see the circulation. Everything, and let me draw this out here. Everything is circulating into the coastline here. Okay, and this storm was moving in this direction, right parallel to the coast. So all these areas were getting onshore flow and getting these strong winds, and there were some reports. Notice this area right here, this Cape Canaveral. This is where the Space Center is. Yeah, the Space Center is. And Cape Canaveral, see how it sticks out there? Well, they reported a wind gust over 100 miles an hour as that storm came through. So all along the coast here, it's a large area that's been affected, and the reason why there's been so many evacuations is because the storm is moving over a large area of the coastline. It's not coming in and just affecting one area. It's affecting the whole entire coastline. That's the uniqueness about this track.
And if you could pull up our page, a few people are asking where can they go to see the voluntary evacuation statuses and shelters. So we'll have Helen pull that up. Another question on here, which may be a little detailed, but Val wants to know, could you check the history of hurricanes that have pulled into the Cape Fear River to see if it was high tide that sucked it in? Looks like we will have high tide again when Matthew comes. And that may be something that you can
I can
decipher. And I don't know if that does. What type of impact does that have? Is it kind of like
Do some research on that. I mean, Southeast North Carolina is no stranger to hurricanes. The most infamous one is Hurricane Hazel in '54. That storm, if we can actually show you that track back in. That one actually came in a different direction. That one came in like this and moved inland like that up towards Toronto.
And the high tide again time, yeah.
The high time, yeah. Let's see. I believe it was 1:11 in the afternoon, and then again at 1:23 in the morning, Sunday morning, in the wee hours of the morning. So those are the two tides, and that's from Wrightsville Beach. Those are the two tides that we'll be watching very closely.
All right, and show us, for those of you that, if you have a second browser, open up our website, www.tv3.com, and tell us what you can see there.
Exactly. Right on the home page, you can see emergency shelters that are in the area. You can just click right on that, and it will show you all the counties, all the locations that you can go to if you need to find a safe spot to stay at. You can see all the closing delays that are happening, businesses, community-wise, sport events, any like that stuff.
Very good. And
there's another. Take them to the Hurricane Center page on our weather page.
Yep. So you can go to our weather tab, WWAY Hurricane Center. Will be constantly giving you guys updates throughout the weekend. That's for sure. And
at the bottom there's an orange tab. And you'll see, there it is right there. Learn what to do before, during, and after. Click on that, and that is a complete list on to help you prepare. It's getting a little late in the game, but that is something you might want to look at as well. Some great information.
And Rachel wants to know, when will the rain start in Wilmington?
Well, as we look at the radar right now, in fact, let me go ahead and show the live radar here. I don't know, are they able to hear me when I turn?
Not as much, but you can talk a little bit louder. Scott's not a yell; he doesn't yell at us.
Well, we are starting to see the rain pick up. As you can see, this is a live radar. In fact, I'll go ahead and put it in the loop here. The last 3 hours, we didn't hardly see there were very few showers. Now we're starting to see more steadier rain coming up from the south, and this is an indication to me that the atmosphere is moistening up, not only at the low levels but in the upper levels as well. These individual showers were coming in. They're very shallow showers. They're not very tall, but they're coming in on the low level flow off the ocean. But now you're starting to see this rain coming up from the south, and then as we pan down to the south, you're seeing the heavier rain here. In fact, as I put on the composite radar, there you go. There's the core of the hurricane down, just now getting into Charleston and to Savannah. Those are where the real heavy bands are, and that's what's going to be coming through later on tomorrow into the wee hours of the morning, tonight into tomorrow morning.
So tomorrow's the answer for that question. And
downhill from here, obviously the brunt of the storm will be impacting us throughout our Saturday. Still breezy in the morning, but by the afternoon we should be seeing Matthew move out of here.
And that answers Dallas's question as well as Jessica's question. They're asking, will it affect North Carolina? Absolutely, and that's what Chief Meteorologist Scott Dean and Meteorologist Helen Holt have been talking about, is just the impact it will have. If you're just tuning in, we are sitting down with our meteorologists in the studio in the Weather Center to talk about the impact this will have on North Carolina. Blake is asking about Bladen-County, and as we mentioned before, if you're in the Cape Fear region, you will be impacted by the rain and by the wind. And if you live in an area that's flood prone, you definitely want to evacuate. It's voluntary in most counties, but you can go to our website, www.tv3.com, where she has the mouse, those first lines there. You can see
it's hard
closing and delays. It's very the top of the website, so you can't miss it. And it's that rain that can impact flooding in our area. One person, Yacho, wants to know, for people in Wilmington, what time tomorrow is the latest time to evacuate safely through I-40? So for those people that are getting off work, they still have to go to work tomorrow, or maybe have to work tomorrow, they're getting off and they plan to wait and leave tomorrow, what time should they evacuate?
Well, the concern I have is people making choices or leaving themselves with only bad options. And that's the problem you have, is you wait so late and all of a sudden you don't have any choices anymore that are good. And you're going to have to go out and possibly go out into a roadway that may become impassable. Flash flooding is the #3 weather-related fatality weather-related incident. It's not tornadoes, earthquakes, which is not weather-related, but science-related. But flash flooding is number 3 on the list, and the reason why is because people don't realize the power of moving water. They underestimate the depth of the water, and all of a sudden they get themselves in trouble. Fortunately, we live in a fairly flat area, so we're not talking about a lot of running water, but still it's very dangerous. So if at all possible, like for instance, my wife, she works for an urgent care, and they are closing their urgent care. And in fact, I talked with the person and the head of that urgent care, and told them that it's probably going to get pretty bad, and for employees to go in and then have to make the decision to shut,
send home,
and then all of a sudden you're out in the elements, and you're trying to get home, and you're out in them, and you're maybe putting yourself in a dangerous situation. I can't answer the question, what time can you possibly wait? I will say this, that conditions will get progressively worse as you go through the day tomorrow.
So between now, it sounds like you're saying between now, as in tonight, and early tomorrow morning is the best time if you are planning on driving and leaving.
Yeah, if you don't have a choice and you have to work,
if you
Earlier
plan on
the
leaving the area, so at a certain point it becomes dangerous because of the flooding.
And the danger is we've got 2 things going on here, or 3 things, as Helen was saying. First of all, we're already coming into this event wet, okay? 150 to 200% above our average since September. We've had Hermine that dropped over 8 inches of rain. We've had flooding in Topsail Beach. We've had several heavy rain events. So we've already got a lot of water in the soil. I can tell you that right now because I had a heavy shower at my house, and I've got a pond that formed in the backyard.
City got a half an inch this morning.
Right.
So we saw rain last night in most spots.
So you've already got a lot of water in the soil. You're going to dump a potential amount of, we're looking at some areas. I think these numbers are low. I've been looking at numbers around 10 to 15 inches of rain. You drop that much rain in a short period of time on soil that can't handle it, and then you put winds of tropical storm force, 40 miles an hour to 60 miles an hour gust, possibly to hurricane force closer down towards the Cape, and now you're talking about trees coming down. Trees coming down on power lines, trees coming down in front of roads. All of a sudden, roads are impassable.
And that brings us to Donna, who says, are power outages expected? How long to restore power based on past experiences?
Well,
It's hard to say how many,
that's a question for the power company. I'm not trying to dodge the question, but
I will say this: I received a call from Duke Energy, a voicemail message as just a user of Duke Energy, Progress Energy, and the message said, "Hey, we have crews," and I have spoken to officials. I know, talking to the mayor of Wilmington, that Duke Energy has crews on standby that are ready to move in case those trees fall and down power lines and people are out of power.
And I'm sure
but
they're
it
gonna do
takes
the best
time. Yeah, they're going to do the best, like you said, the best they can, but it will take time. So definitely go ahead and get your batteries and make sure you stock up. If you have a generator or at least flashlights, to be prepared, and water.
I can tell you through my experience, back in 1996, when I lived in Raleigh, Hurricane Fran came through Raleigh and dumped 6 to 12 inches of rain on the area, and we had hurricane force gusts that came through there, and you could hear the trees crackling down. Waking up the next morning, we had a huge pine that was down on our apartment complex. I've never seen Raleigh look like that before. There were trees down all over the place. We didn't have power for a week.
Yeah.
And we couldn't go anywhere. Nobody could travel anywhere because all the roads, all the neighborhoods were blocked in because of all these big oaks and big trees, pine trees that were down. I'm not saying that necessarily is going to happen here in southeast North Carolina, but you should plan for the possibility of not having power for an extended period of time. And as soon as it goes out, I can tell you, Duke is going to get out there, or whatever power company is going to get out there, and they're going to be working their hardest to get it back up. But logistically,
the conditions, road conditions could be hard to get there.
That's right.
There's so many things, there's so many factors that can go into it. So, everything that we've read, be prepared for lengthy power outages. You just have to be prepared. We've been talking about this and kind of grinding it down for the last week or so, saying, hey guys, be prepared. And we want you guys to be prepared.
Absolutely. Again, I'm looking at some of the comments here. We're trying to answer all of your questions. We're about to wrap up here in a few minutes. I know that Dallas and Debbie has asked again about if it's coming to North Carolina. Yes, it is coming to North Carolina.
Yep.
Also, we're going to post this video. There are a few people asking some of the questions we've already answered, so that's why we're not answering those questions again. Tamara's asking about Nicole. We did talk about that, and yes, Nicole's out there, but not having as much of an impact as yesterday. But you'll be able to replay this video. Please share this video video with your friends on your pages as soon as we post it. If there are any other questions, we'd like to answer those, and any other comments that you have that you'd like to leave us with, Scott.
Well, I tell you what, you know, I was in my yard today, and I was securing things around the house and doing all those things that you have to do to prepare for high winds and rain. And all of a sudden, I got an alert that popped up, and I heard my voice.
Yeah, we did.
It was from our WWAY weather app. And this is a great feature because it will let you know when there's a warning that's been issued. You can go on this map, and it not only tells you, it shows you where you are, it follows you, but you can also follow where the rain is. And it also tells you where the warnings and watches and all that. Now you can turn that off so you can see the radar, but that's a nice feature to have. You can have different settings here if you want to. You can look at the daily forecast. You can look at the hourly forecast. There are videos. Here's the latest video that we recorded that happened. This was as of 6 o'clock. You can look at that. So it has a wealth of information. You know what, guys? It's free. Download it free on your iPhone or your Android device, and it is a great free service that has a wealth of information on it. It really is nice.
And also, you know, Saturdays we normally don't have shows, but guess what? 6 to 10 o'clock we'll have special edition of our newscast. We'll be going commercial free, giving you updates, getting you prepared for Matthew's intensity that's going to be increasing throughout the day. And we're also a lot of football games going on. Unless we have to, we will be giving you updates at the end of each quarter, half times in between the games, and also another full hour at 7 o'clock, from 7 to 8 o'clock. So we will be, you know, on air on Facebook and Twitter, and we'll be doing these live updates on Facebook as well between all of the other cut-ins we'll have actually like on air.
That's right, as she mentioned, also tomorrow morning as well, beginning at what time in the morning?
6 a.m. till 10 a.m.
All right, so you'll be able to catch us then, and then again 7 p.m. as well. You'll be able to
7
see
to
us.
8.
Tonight on Cape Fear CW, we'll have a live newscast there at 10 p.m. With our meteorologists, and then at 11 o'clock we'll have our newscast on WWAY. And just to thank you guys, Helen Holt again, and Scott Dean here, Chief Meteorologist, being able to just talk to you guys directly and answer your questions, which we've answered most of them. I will post this to our page. You can follow us on Twitter as well. We'll have updates there, and go to our website. And as Scott said, show them the app again, Scott. Sure. Pull it up. And while he's doing that, I just want to recap for a lot of you that are just tuning in. We are doing we did a live Q&A, but one of the things you may want to get is this weather app. Just go to your app and just put in WA News. And Dallas, I know you've been asking about Wilkinson. Wilkinson is in the Cape Fear region, so that area will be impacted as well. So if you're in any of the areas that we have our news.
Yep, if you're in southeastern North Carolina, you are going to see impacts from Hurricane Matthew. That is 100% positive.
Yeah,
all right.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, guys. And we will post this now. Make sure you share it with your friends so we can definitely get the knowledge out there to everyone that is watching. Have a good night.
Good night.
We'll see you at 10 and 11.